Dandy, I remember you told me you want to talk about Iran with me in another episode. Actually, I am really interested in this because I have such a such a special point of view on this whole story, which is very rare. Not so many people have this point of view, and they don't think like this. But I am ready and willing to do this actually.
سلام، ایشالله که خوش و سلامت باشی، هر جا که هستی تنتون سالم. امیدوارم روز خوبی داشته باشی. اگه به نظرتون من فیت مناسبی برای این کار هستم، لطفاً دوباره به من پیام بدین. خیلی خوشبختم از آشناییتون. So tell me a little bit more about this project. What kind of stories are you looking to hear? Are you looking to hear for the political ones, the overall living conditions, general knowledge, or, you know, I'm kind of interested in making podcasts. I think that mostly people are attracted to visual things, like looking at stuff. But in my opinion, listening to a voice that can actually have this deep meaning and feeling is way much more stronger, and I can build a connection compared to just looking at someone speak on TV.
Salam, thank you for your message. And you're right, I'm really attracted to audio podcast medium, especially because you hear the voice and you're not concentrating on the visual, so you're really listening. And so yeah, this project would be the third episode of my series called Voice Seeker. And what I'm doing is inviting people to give me their messages as voice messages in Instagram or other ways if they'd like. And that's really a good feature, I think, because you don't have interruptions. You can say what you want. If you don't like it, you can delete it and say it again. You can do the interview over a long time. It doesn't have to be all at once in a Zoom call. And I think it's like sending little letters that way, and I really like the format. And as for the content, you can include everything. I think the more rich you present your story, the better. Politics are really overrepresented in the media already. And I think it's good to make a connection to political situations, but I'm really looking for the personal. So your personal experiences, what you've gone through, some of the things that you find beautiful, some of the things that you find horrible, some of the things you enjoy, some of the things you would wish to change. I would love to have a complete picture, because so much of what we see in media is polarized. And I'm really tired of polarization. I would like to see more blending of the different perspectives. It's possible to love Iran and hate it at the same time.
This is a true story from a Kurdish girl from Iran. I would like to share this story with people in the world. I am that girl who speaks now. I miss Iran so much. The food. I miss my mom. It's been 8 years that I escaped my country, my home, my family, my husband.
Dandy John, salam. I'm going to record a voice for you. I don't know if you can still use it in your podcast or you cannot do anything with it, but I will do it. I know it's late. It's already more than a month that I said I will do it, but I didn't. Anyway.
Voice Seeker.
voice seeker.
I'm going to talk about how it feels to be an Iranian. Well, to be an Iranian, you grow up with this idea in your head that Iran is a great country, and it has been a great country during the history. And here is a country with thousands and thousands years of history, and we are important and blah blah blah. But you grow up and you realize that maybe it's not that perfect. There is lots of problems with freedom, a lot with economy and technology and development and different things. I don't know if today still people are growing up their kids with these ideas or not. Because nowadays everybody are looking for a way to escape, to run away, and to live their life somewhere out of here in peace and with dignity and with respect, not with Islamic Republic, who is all the time killing you and raping your rights. Anyway, there is tens of reasons to escape, and there is hundreds of reasons to stay and to keep life here in this country. For me, one of the most important things and one of my favorite things here is that Iran is a country full of diversity and variety. And when you are moving in Iran, when you are traveling, each 40-50 kilometers change the word of that area. 40-50 kilometers you move and you see that language is changed, foods are changed, music that people are playing are changed, traditions are changed, even nature is changed. You know, in Iran there is different nations. Maybe it's not good to call it nation, maybe it's good to call it ethnics. But anyway, from African Iranians who have black skins to Iranians with blue eyes and golden hairs and totally white skins, there is all these types of shapes and colors living inside this country. Already 14, 15 languages are being spoken. And these are languages. There is really hundreds of accents around. And this diversity, it's not only about people and traditions and culture. It's also about nature. From ocean in the south to the sea in the north, we have really different types of nature. Snowy mountains to the dry mountains, to forests, to greenlands, to deserts, to oases, to really different types. In winter and sometimes in autumn, in the same time, you can go in some resorts to play for skiing, and then you can take a flight, you can go somewhere to take some baths, and then you can take another flight and you can go in the middle of the desert somewhere under the sun to burn. really different nature, which makes you able to move and to enjoy your life inside the country. Yani, since we cannot go out because of our shitty passport, the worst passport in the world, almost worst, we need and we have to move only inside the country, and we can only visit inside the country. But this is not tiring at all. For me, I'm traveling in Iran for last 6-7 years, and still it's not finished, and I guess it will never finish, because it's full of details through hundreds of years, details in architect, details in art, any other types of arts, not just architect, in music, and in general details. When we are talking about Iranian art, the most important thing for me, I guess, it's details. And somehow you can say these are details which are making the art. Doesn't matter if it's the music or it's painting or it's architect or other types of art. These are these details who are making arts in Iran. And John, you asked me about what I hate the most about Iran or inside Iran. So that thing which I hate the most is Tarof. If you have ever been in Iran, even for one day, for sure you experienced this shit. For a brief explanation, I can say Tarof is offering the things that you are not really offering. It's pretending something which you really don't want to do. For example, you take a taxi, at the end you want to pay the taxi driver, and he starts to say that, oh, you don't need to pay, you don't really need to pay, you can go have a good day, and this kind of things. But it's not real. At the end he will take the whole money and he will go away, and if you don't give the money they will follow you, and even they beat you to take the money. But in the beginning they just do this Tarof to look nicer. Or for example, you arrive your home, at the door you meet your neighbor, and you tell him that, come to our house, let's have a tea together, let's drink something, let's have fun, let's talk, blah blah blah. And your neighbor is telling you, oh no, we have things to do, we cannot come, thank you, inshallah another time we will come. And the whole thing is just a role. It's just a role play. Your neighbor knows that you are just pretending that you want him to come, and in real you don't want him to come, and you're just offering something unreal. And your neighbor knows that you are doing the shitty thing, Tarof. So this is Tarof which I hate the most, and I guess I know where it came from. Somehow I guess it came from long term of dictatorship in this country. Hundreds and hundreds of years of dictatorship and totalitarianism. Maybe you call it totalitarianism. Yes, this is stuff. Because our people, Iranians in history, whenever a radical king or some stupid, crazy leader came, forced them to do things that they didn't want, or forced them to stop things that they wanted to do. So somehow they learned to pretend some wills that it's not their real wills and desires, or to pretend that they hate some things while it's their real desire and they really want inside themselves. Yani, people are not direct, people are not honest. There is always, all the time, some differences between outside and inside of the people, and you can never guess what's the reality inside. And about the thing which makes me sad about Iran is that somehow Iranian culture is going to be extinct with Islamic Republic on top of our heads, who trying to erase all the cultural things, all the Iranian cultural things. Yani, they tried their best to only keep and develop and grow Islamic parts of Iranian culture, not just Iranian culture itself. You know what I mean? For example, our New Year is called Nowruz, and it's in the beginning of spring. And it's something totally Iranian. Even in the other countries around Iran, it came from Iran, and the name itself is Persian. Nowruz, which means new day. No, it's new, and Ruz is day in Persian. Islamic Republic, it's not even using the word Nowruz during Nowruz. Yani, before Nowruz, they just tell you Happy New Year. They don't use the word Nowruz. They're afraid. They don't do it. They try their best to destroy our cultural things, cultural parts which are not Islamic. And they really destroy it, yani. They really do it. Some cultural, yani, some historical sites, they destroy, yani, they collapse, and they build mosques, they build new apartments or new sheds. And on the other hand, all around Iran, we have some neighbors who are denying impact of Iran in their culture. Yani, they don't want to confess it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it, even to tell the young generation what's really going on. For example, in Turkey, I give you an example to know. In Turkish language, there is hundreds of Persian words that Turkish people mostly, they don't even know that these are Persian. And this is in language. Imagine what's going on in their music, what's going on in other cultural things, in literature, like in Sufism and different things. They are not confessing. Yani, the impact of Iran in the world around it, yani in the Middle East, is like the impact of Greece in Europe. And the whole Europe is confessing about that Greece is a great, important country in European culture. But about Iran, nobody knows, it's not even talking about it. And not just not talking about it, they try to steal some things from Iran. For example, time to time, Azerbaijan is going to register some cultural heritage in UNESCO which belongs to Iran. And Azerbaijan itself doesn't exist even more than 100 years. Before that it was Iran, and now they are going and
For example, some instruments they tried to register on UNESCO heritage site, which is totally Iranian instrument. It's not Azerbaijani instrument, and Azerbaijan itself, it's 100 years old. Before that it was Iran, not Azerbaijan. But this word is like this nowadays. And Islamic Republic inside is destroying, and our neighbors outside are destroying. And Iranians also, with their escaping, somehow they are destroying, they are running away. And who will carry this culture? Who will save things? Who knows? Nobody knows. At the end, I want to tell you about what makes me afraid the most, and what is the scariest thing about Iran for me. For me, the thing that makes me afraid the most is the idea of invading country. It's really possible for Iran to get invaded in different parts. Kurdish people wants to get invaded. Baluch people wants to. Khuzestani people wants to. Azerbaijani people wants to. And imagine if all those people, if all this Iranian ethnic group, they do it and they just invade the country, what will remain at the end? And a small part of desert in the middle, which called Iran. And it's not colorful anymore. It's not colorful and full of diversity anymore. This makes me afraid, and this is my bad dream about Iran. But anyway, I hope this will not happen, and I hope we can survive. I really hope and wish to survive and to keep this culture, to keep alive this culture, to keep this culture alive. And I guess we can. Islamic Republic is only 44 something years old, 45 years old. And it's nothing in this history. Lots of people came, lots of people attacks. Arabs attacks, Mongolians attacks, Turks attacks, Afghans attacks. And we are still here. I hope we can stay here and live here and survive here with everything, with all the cultures, with all the culture and with all the languages and arts that we had and we made till now. Dandijan, I talked a lot. I hope you can understand what I'm talking about. And what else? Nothing.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, testing. Hello and welcome all audience. Let me give you a little bit of background of myself. My name is Maddie, that's my nickname. My Iranian name is Mahdiya, and Mahdiya is technically an Arabic name. We have a lot of Arabic names in Farsi, which means guided, and it comes from the root Mahdi, which is a male name. Well, I was born and raised in Rockville until I was 10, and then after the age of 10, my mom and dad decided to move back to Iran. Now, my mom and my dad are both Iranian, but their motives of doing such thing, technically it was my dad's idea and decision, was to raise a child that is aware with the Iranian culture. Because I notice a lot of kids, Iranian kids especially, if they come here from a very young age, or if they were just born here, it's very rare for them to understand the culture, and most likely they're going to become westernized, whitewashed, or called Western. At first, I really didn't like this decision because, well, you have a lot more freedom here in America compared to maybe any other country. Or, other countries are a little bit different than what we have here in America. And, of course, who wants to go live in a less developed country? It doesn't have to necessarily be like Iran. It could be any other country. It's going to have its own ups and downs. But now that I'm older, I feel like that was an eye-opener, because you get to go see bad and you get to be more appreciative of what's going on here and what people here may have as in daily life and not really realize or be appreciative for it. So that was one good thing about it. Now, here's the fun part. Being American in Iran is really cool because I think it's this thing about Iranians, especially after the revolution, they really love Americans. And even all my cousins or all my family, it was really cool to them that they had a cousin which was American but was also Iranian, it was just really cool to them. They would kind of slay me off in the family, or, even my classmates. They would be like, oh yeah, there's this cool American girl who just came into school today, and everybody wanted to be my friend, I was thinking if I would be here all my life, high school would have sucked for me, because in America, it's like you have this kind of acceptance system of who wants to be the famous kid in school, who wants to be a famous girl in school. You got bullies, you got nerdy kids, you got the dweebs and the anime people. But if you're really not from any of these categories, you would find yourself being very lonely, in America, it's not like people would just walk up to you and start having a conversation. They really accept their privacy. However, in Iran, it doesn't matter who you are and what kind of interests you have. You're most likely going to have some kind of daily conversation, and people are going to still pay attention to you. So that was one good thing, that I was like the famous kid in high school and in school in general. And it was really cool. I would get a lot of attention. Another thing that really was something very cool to me, and I really did enjoy Iran, is that, it's very rare for public to accept you to have a normal friend from the opposite sex. So you see a lot of men hanging out with men, a lot of women hanging out with women, and since after the revolution, maybe before it wasn't like that, but I'm too young to remember anything about that time. But after the revolution, everything is technically separate. It's like men go to a different swimming pool. Women have a different time during the swimming pool. Men go to all men gyms. Women go to all women gyms. In weddings, there's an all male side and an all female side. It's like everything is separated based off of gender. Like, okay, all girls school, all boys school, all For me, at first, it was kind of odd because I felt like this was very sexist, But after middle school, I found out that I like women, that I'm even gay. And I was like, this is such a good benefit for me because I don't really have to deal with boys and wanting to compete like, oh, let me have some women, let me have some girls. Me, with the appearance I have, I'm like a complete tomboy. Even I get called sir a lot. I'm not upset about that, but it was just really cool because you would walk into a school and you would get all the attention. You were American, you were tall, you were masculine, you were a tomboy, and you were gay. That was win, 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 win. So not only was I not upset about that, but I was actually very happy about it after. And another good thing about it is that Iranian culture is such a touchy culture. It's the minute they greet each other, they give each other 3 kisses on the cheek. And like I said, it's not between a man and a woman. It's 2 men and 2 women. And I'm not talking about being gay. I'm just saying, like, this is the way they greet each other. You know, like, any country can have this. Even Europeans, when they want to greet each other, they give each other 2 kisses on the cheek. However, because Christian culture doesn't prohibit a man and a woman to, like, you know, just touch each other normally or give each other just cheek kisses, they do that in Europe too. It could happen between a man and a woman, 2 men, 2 women. But in Iran, since it's an Islamic country, and you know, you have those rules and laws for Islam, it's usually going to happen only between 2 guys and 2 girls. Now, in the Western culture, this is so different because from elementary school, which is a very early age, they teach people that every person has their own personal space. That means if someone is, like, you know, talking into your face, or they're giving you an unconsensual touch, or, you know, like, you know, like, there's, like, a lot of stuff they would teach you in elementary school, like, hey, keep your hands to yourself, you know, like, don't do that kind of stuff. Now in Iran, it's completely opposite. Like, oh, give your classmate a hug, you know, like, give him a pat on the back, or greet them, give him, like, kisses on the cheek, you know, like, it's such a touchy culture, and I personally like that. I don't have any problem with that, unless the only time I do have a problem is if someone's being creepy, because, like, if it's, like, in a sexual way, then okay, we're talking differently. But if it's just, like, in a friendly matter, I whatsoever have no problem with that at all. And going back to that whole being gay thing, as a Western person, when they come to Iran and they see men kissing each other like that and greeting each other, or women doing the same, or, like, in the weddings, men are dancing with men, women are dancing with women, they think that that is so gay. Like, it's so not normal in America for boys to do that stuff. Like, maybe girls, if they're best friends, okay, but for boys, it's so odd that you would just see them, like, do stuff like that. They're like, oh my god, they're so gay. However, this is something completely normal in Iran, and that being said, for me, which I liked women, and women would, you know, be so touchy around me, I was, like, in complete, let's call it a heaven. Like, you know, like, to me, that was like heaven, you know, like, you get all the attention in school, they come and give you kisses, they give you hugs, they love you, you're, like, the famous kid to them. Like, that was, like, for me, it was a really, really good thing. As you know, since the revolution, being gay in Iran is technically illegal. Now, what's funny is that doesn't mean that we don't have an LGBT community in Iran. In Iran, in fact, we got a bunch of bisexual people. Like, most men are bisexual, okay? And most women, to what I heard, have gay tendencies of being, you know, lesbian or being bisexual. Now, this can be due to several reasons, but let me get to my point first. Being gay in Iran is illegal, but it's technically, you're not gonna get executed for it if nobody finds out, you know? And that being said means that people can still find out. They're not stupid if someone's acting gay, but it would only become a problem if you expose yourself online, you know, like trying to promote it how people do it here, like, you know, putting up LGBT flags in front of your house, or, like, obviously walking around and telling everybody you're gay. You know, that kind of stuff is not, it's, like, more like a personal matter. Same thing goes with Japan. Like, being gay in Japan isn't illegal, but Japanese people have a very secretive life about stuff like that, so they're not gonna be like Americans to, like, go out and tell everybody they're gay or start fighting for LGBT rights. It's like, you know, be gay, be secret, have fun, do whatever you want, you know, like, be however you want. So there were these secret groups and chats. I don't know if I should so call it secret because, you know, the government has access to seeing and monitoring everything. But I guess they were cool with us just being in the closet, of not telling the public that this does exist. They really didn't have a problem with us. And there would be, like, certain coffee shops and certain group chats in WhatsApp and Telegram or Instagram, which, you know, they were all LGBT. It could be gay, lesbian, transgender, you know, queer. and they would all like put up a group meeting or like a house party, and we would know like certain spots which we would go see each other. Now what's fun is that in Iran, since people are already touchy and two women can definitely hold hands, you could obviously walk with your girlfriend holding her hand and nobody would ever find out that you're gay. I mean, the most obvious public is not really gonna know that you guys are in a relationship. So in terms of that, you have a lot of freedom, because here, this kind of stuff is kind of like everybody knows what gay is. Everybody knows what the LGBT flag is. Like, it's not secretive. So if two women or two men are being too touchy, people are gonna notice that something's like a little bit homo with you guys. But in Iran, it's only like a certain group of people which are open-minded or are allies or gay know that you're being gay, you know? Like, I had my LGBT pride bracelet on with me everywhere, and nobody really knew what that flag was. Now, what's funny is that homosexuals are not accepted in Iran, like gay and lesbians. And if they come to a point which everybody knows that they're gay, and they're really like kind of advertising for that kind of stuff and shouting out that they can get executed. And this usually happens by getting hung. But it's funny that the Iranian government recognizes transgenders and would actually pay to go get their sex changed for free. That's really cool, because their ideology is that if you're a guy who likes other guys, probably mistakenly were born as a girl, and we would go pay you to have a sex change for free, and so that way you would be more happier as a woman liking men. Or the opposite, if you're a girl and you like girls, they would pay you to go turn into a male, and that way they would think that you would be more happier, and consider this to be very halal and not a taboo. Not only do they accept transgenders, the fact that they pay for all their sex change, and the law really does care about transgenders. Like, it's technically illegal to start making fun of like a transgender in public, you know? Like, not that people don't do it, but if that person presses charges, the government is definitely going to be on the transgender person's side. Now, going back to the other point of why most people in Iran are considered bisexuals, could be because of two reasons. Let's say if you're straight, you have a lot of problems wanting to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Like, you can't be seen in public, you can't get a hotel room together, you barely can even go sit in a cafe, because you never know. Like, nowadays it's a little bit easier to go out and stuff, but at some point in Iran it was like really terrible, especially when the revolution just started. Like, they would have like something called morality police, which they would walk into cafes and ask for identification and be like, okay, how is this guy related to you? Or like, you could easily get pulled over, and then the morality police would ask, who is this guy to you? Or like, is he your brother? Is he your husband? Or are you guys even like, you know, married, or what's going on? But now it's a lot more relaxed. It's not that way. You could still, you actually, right now in Tehran, you would see like a lot of boyfriends and girlfriends hanging out. People are much more cheeky now, and they know their rights, so it's not like before. But going back to that same thing, why most people are bisexual in Iran is because they find it to be easier to be gay. Like, let's say from like a very young age, you're in an all-boys school, and you find this need that you really want to sleep with someone, you want to have a girlfriend, but you can't be seen in public, you can't hold hands, you can't literally do anything. So they start messing around with boys, you know, like boys. Most men in Iran, even if they're completely straight, have this memory of them messing around with a boy, doing some weird stuff, doing some what's so-called gay stuff here in America. Girls aren't like, you know, as adventurous and horny as boys, I guess. Well, at least in a very young age. But yeah, with men, it's definitely that they would consider themselves bisexuals because it's easier to be with a boy and not get really noticed in public compared to being with a girl. So that's why there's a lot of bisexuality going on in Iran. It's kind of like the old Greek myth, which men were considered bisexual because they like to do, you know, other stuff with boys. But But yeah, like that's what causes like a lot of people to think that they're homosexual, but they're technically not. It's just them having that sexual pressure and tension and finding a way to release all that stuff. Okay, now I'm really gonna stop talking about the gay stuff. This is getting way too gay. I'm gonna start talking about the topic of drinking and smoking in Iran, finding drugs, you know, all that kind of stuff in the next few voices.
Wow, that's great. I love it. I love the perspective. I think it's so interesting to hear about being someone born in the States but with Iranian parents and then going back to Iran and then also being gay and finding this attention on you. Oh, I was really laughing. I was laughing so much about that because it's like the perfect situation. I know exactly how that must be to be like just like thrown into this environment where suddenly you're getting all this attention. You're the popular one and you're different and all these girls coming to you. I can just feel it, like how cozy that must have been for you. Wow, that's hilarious. Yeah, and the just the very nature of prohibition and how it encourages exactly what it tries to prevent. I mean, I think Iran is a great lesson for that. Some of my friends were telling me that there's some kind of, it's like thank God for the Islamic Republic because it made us all atheists. Something like that where it's like, yeah, if you didn't have an Islamic government, everyone would probably still be Muslim. Unfortunately for Islam, the Islamic Republic exists because forcing people to become Muslims is the worst public relations strategy that Islam could possibly have. You know, in Turkey, there's so many religious Muslims because they have the state to go against, and in Iran, it's like the state's forcing everyone to be Muslim, and so the people are wearing a hijab. It's like falling off their head. So the forcing people to do things is a great way to make them do the thing you're trying to stop them from doing. Yeah, the bisexuality. Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, the boys they they because they're not allowed to hook up with girls. So yeah, I mean they're naturally curious. They want to have contact. I mean people want to have affection. That's it's like wow. Yeah, it's like in the culture where it's much more penalized to be gay, it's much more common actually. I'm really curious to hear what you're going to say next because I've heard a lot about the underground scene in Iran and being born in the US myself with only an American passport, it's really difficult to go and visit there. I did some research about it and you have to pay a tour guide and have a whole itinerary planned out, and basically you can't really go by yourself. You have to spend a lot of money and stuff to be able to go, and you know it's like a few $1,000 for even a week or two. And the way I like to travel would be to go there for a few months and just wander around like all of my other friends get to do who are from other countries. But I did hear about the underground scene. I mean, I've heard about homemade wines and, of course, cannabis. Apparently, there's a very, very, very plentiful supply of high-grade cannabis there. LSD, I'm sure, also opiates are abounds. I mean, maybe too much. I'm guessing that the underground scene of Iran could be kind of also a kind of dark and sad place with such a concentration of escapist substances. But I also have this kind of lively feel in my imagination when I imagine it anyway. Yeah, great storytelling. I'm so glad that you contributed this.
Thank you for being excited to hear the story. This is motivating and helping me to explain and describe the story. In Turkey, I don't speak that much English, so I like sometimes I forget words and like how to put the words together. So, and I don't know what to do about that. You are going how to do that?
I know it's difficult to do, but I also know that it's a story that you've told others and that it can really be helpful to give people an idea of what's going on. So thank you.
Oh, this is a true life story of a Kurdish girl from Iran. This girl is me. I'm going to be sharing my story with whoever wants to hear it, whoever means to hear it. I would like to share it. I'm coming from a conservative Kurdish culture, from Iran. Iran is also an Islamic country. I was choking in that situation. I wanted to taste freedom. I wanted to go on the street without hijab. I wanted the sun to shine on my hair. I was always dreaming until I could escape from Iran. It was 8 years ago I escaped from Iran. I wanted to go to Europe, Canada. Some were safe, some were modern. So I came to Turkey. I could only come to Turkey, and in a way you can say that I'm stuck in here for 8 years now. I registered in UNHCR and the process is really slow, but thanks God this year I got my acceptance, and they said that soon I will be relocated to the third country, inshallah. Yeah, it's been 8 years since I left Iran. There is one part to the story which is going from in Iran, and there is one part that is since I escaped from Iran. The first part is... Okay, let me start from the time where I was forced into a marriage when I was 13 by my father. It's very difficult to explain psychologically because when I explain I go there, but I would like to share. Yeah, I was forced into a marriage to a judge who was much older than me. It was an arranged marriage from my father and him, because my father was a drug dealer and he was a judge. In Iran, some men, they are proud to have young wives. And anyway, it doesn't matter, like they can marry 4 times and they can have short marriages, which my husband had those. Also, I was shocking in that situation until one day I found a DVD on the street and I put it on the DVD. In those times we don't have internet or computer, it's just a DVD player and a monitor. And so I watched the video and it was about the secret, the law of attraction, with the Persian subtitle. I watched this video over and over and over again. And I was practicing, like feeling good, feeling positive, like feeling the positive feelings. I would go into the front of the mirror and imagine myself on the street without hijab, without scarf or veil. I practiced this and And I felt like I could do it. I could go out, I wanted it so much. I was so excited. Until I could manage to escape from Iran and come to Turkey. My plan was not to stay here. I was gonna go to Europe, but couldn't succeed. And then I registered in UNHCR. It's been 8 years since I came. And I think the story starts from the after escape. Yeah. I came to Turkey. I couldn't go to Europe. I registered in UNHCR. Yeah, so in these 8 years since I left, I had so many adventures, so many experiments. At the beginning, it was difficult. I lost my passport and I was living for like 2 years. Not 2 years, like 1.5 years without passport, ID. I lost my goals. But thanks God, I met wonderful people in Turkey, in Kadıköy. I was passing by a cafe and I saw that there is second-hand clothes there for free. And I went there and I picked some, and the owner, they were a couple. They wanted to know me, and I introduced myself, and they helped me to stay in their cafe, sleep in their cafe. They had a massage room. I stayed there. I was still planning to find a way to go, to escape from Turkey, to go to Europe, to Greece, by ship, by land, whatever it is. So I stayed in their cafe. I didn't know Turkish in that time, and I was able to communicate with this couple in English, and this is happening in Istanbul, by the way. And I was still planning to go to Europe, and they thought that it's a crazy idea that I'm planning to escape like illegally. Yeah, but I couldn't do it. God saved me. I tried, but I couldn't. Yeah, so I stayed in the cafe. I slowly learned Turkish cafe, it's a social place. I was cooking Persian dishes and they were selling in the cafe, and the lady told me that she had a dream that she's gonna take care of a girl who her name means water, and my name means water. Means like water, and it was so magical. I never forget the law of attraction. I put that in practice in my life in Turkey also, to attract good things, to attract what do I want, and things like this, like to keep myself positive. And people in this cafe and their friends, they were like spiritual people doing vipassana, meditation, massage, and things like that. I was surrounded by really quality, nice people. And then I found a group, I was not finding a group. There were a hippie group, like 7, 8 people from different countries, and they are barefoot. They are having like backpacks, and I saw these people and I was like, wow. And I get to know those people, and I told them my story, and they tell me, let's go with us. I said, okay. And I met with them and we traveled around Turkey. One of them didn't have a passport from Europe, from Poland. He believed in no passport. And so we traveled together. It was really, really nice to spend time and travel with these people. We were like a family caravan. We traveled around the year. We stopped in some cities in Turkey. And I had no passport, nothing. It was so fun somehow, and at the same time stressful. Until I fell in love with an American guy, and we decided to get married, and I registered in UNHCR. And I got an ID, and I told my story. I seeked like asylum, and it took them years to believe in my story, and this year I got my acceptance, and they told me that soon I will be relocated to the third country, which might be Canada, America, or one of European countries. In these years I also, when I got registered in UNHCR, they gave me, it was in Ankara, the capital city, and they were like, they gave me like 10 cities that this, choose one of these, and you have to go there and live there. And you have to sign every week in immigration office to show them that you're living in there. And I saw those cities and I didn't like them. I cried, I said, I only know people in Istanbul who can help me and support me economically, accommodation and stuff like that. And they didn't accept, and they told me, okay, we can send you to Yalova, which is close to Istanbul. And I got registered. I said okay. I went to Yalova. I registered in the immigration office. I got my new ID. I was happy. Finally, I have an ID. I have an ID, but I had to live in that city. So when I registered in there, I had no idea. I knew nobody in there. And I registered, and with my boyfriend we went back to Istanbul. And in Istanbul we heard that there is an event of Sema in Yalova, a Sufi gathering. And we participated in there because anyway I had to go there and need to sign. I had to live in there. So we went there and I met wonderful, wonderful people in the Sufi gathering. And after that we became like family. And yeah, we are a family. We are connected. And yeah, so after registering in Yalova, I was living with my boyfriend in Istanbul, in a room. He was a violin player. I had a dreamy life, so romantic. I fell in love with this guy. He was in love with me. We got married, and he wanted to help me to get out of Turkey and this situation. But it didn't work out because of his mom. That's another story. I couldn't go to America and we were married. But I had to divorce him because of immigration officers making problems that I had a husband in America now and they are going to stop supporting me if I don't divorce or if I don't go, and I had to divorce. And yeah, that was very difficult because we needed a lot of money, and a friend of mine helped from GoFundMe to collect money to divorce. Yeah, Oliver left to USA, and I was sad. He was sad too, but we broke up. We couldn't do it anymore. And that's another story. Anyway, I'm going through stories to the story, Andy.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stories to tell. I can understand how difficult it can be to try to tell a whole story of many years. I'm trying to do that myself and figure out a way to do it. And it doesn't necessarily have to come out in the order of what happened either. It just sometimes comes out what's relevant. And yeah, I remember meeting you at that Sufi gathering. That was a really powerful experience for me too, to meet my first friends from Iran there, and also to understand that we're a lot more alike than the media has us believe. And I remember you were also telling me about how you were married to this judge at a very young age, and you were saying something too, how you had gold all over you, like it was like a very rich guy, and so in a way you had a lot of luxury, but then you were also having to deal with these like temporary wives that he would have, these basically, his almost kind of like prostitutes in a way, I guess, that he would have, or women that he would hire for a short time, and he made you send them away. He couldn't even do it. He was that much of a coward. Yeah, I know that's a difficult to talk about that time when you were very young, and that you experienced some trauma. So thanks for sharing that. And I know that it's it must have been so difficult to be at that age. But I find it so amazing that you found The Secret and a DVD in Farsi on the ground. Wow, that's so cool.
After breaking up with her, I lived in Istanbul, drinking rooms, working in cafes, restaurants for a lot of cash. And Istanbul was nice to explore, like learning the language. And I was going every week to Yalova to sign, to show an immigration office that I'm living in that city. Yeah, I was working in Istanbul, and I got to know the yoga path. I was going to a studio near where I was living, yoga studio, and the owner liked me so much, and she wanted me to take this scholarship to for becoming a yoga teacher. So I took that scholarship. It was in pandemic time. I was lucky to have this education and get this certification. I'm so blessed with the path of yoga. Also, just like Sufi path. In any bigger picture, when I look, it's like the law of attraction works, and God is protecting me and bringing the things that I really need and I want. I'm so blessed with that. So inshallah soon they will relocate me to the third country. There is a lot that I want to share, but I don't know what to share. There is many things going on. After getting the yoga certification, I decided to go to a small city and it's called Taksim, and open a studio with a woman who was a Pilates teacher. And we opened the studio. I felt like, oh, okay, now I have a career in a small city, and even though like I was not legally there, but like opening the studio and stuff like that under her name was okay. But some extreme stuff happens in Turkey also to me. Like the people, I meet some guy and they are like show me violence, and I had to leave that city. Sometimes like some dark patterns comes and shows you something that you need to learn, teaches you. So I had a slap from the universe maybe to wake up and learn. Yeah. My mind's, I don't know, my mind goes there and there.
I want to talk about my point of view and idea about the whole story that goes on. And it's, of course, more in an anarchist way and less affected by media. And it's more based on my experience of life and travel and meeting people and talking face to face and reading less news. So yeah, like let's do it, because I know that what is happening, what everybody is reading and sharing on social media, that's not the truth. And I'm very skeptical about this whole thing that is happening even right now. Well, I don't know, I have an intuitive sense that this is not how it is, especially what they show. And the internet is a very powerful tool that they are using right now in this war.
You know, this is something interesting I've also been thinking about a lot, because Iran is one of the only countries left in the world that has a central bank that's not controlled by the Bank of International Settlements. So all of these European central bankers that control every other country in the world except for like Iran and Russia and maybe one or two other countries. I don't know the whole list off the top of my head, but almost all countries have a debt-based currency system that's controlled by a small group of elite bankers based out of Europe. And there's a strong incentive to destabilize Iran, to take power and put them under the slavery of that financial system. Of course, it's really interesting to see what's going on. In one hand, yeah, we want women to be free in Iran. But on the other hand, I don't want Iran to become a vassal slave state to the central banks of Europe. I want Iran to have its own independent currency and to be a truly free country, not to give up its sovereignty to be controlled by these Europeans. I support Iran to be truly free. So I'm very skeptical too about the narrative. But of course, we can't deny that the way that women are treated needs to change. But yeah, let's make this story. This could be the next podcast for the summer solstice. This could be the summer solstice podcast, because I think we should talk about it sooner rather than later. So let's get together with all of the Persian people that we know who have ideas about this and have a real dialogue. Let's talk about the things that they don't talk about for Masa Amini and all these other channels. Like, let's see what's the real story. Are people trying to make the Shah again? When do we realize that the Shah is the people? When do we realize that the banks are not the Shah either?
Yeah, I'm down for it. And actually, it's kind of clicked in me. I want to open up about some stuff that is experience of living in Iran, that society starts at your home, at your parents' home. The first society that you ever know is your parents, and then it gets bigger, because in Iran still you are in touch with your, cousins and the cousins of your parents and the cousins of them, and it goes on. The list is really big. So it's pretty much different than the life in Europe or in West or anywhere else, because it still is Eastern culture. And this freedom for women will start there, will start in the house, in your parents, in the society. Yeah, and this is what you said, this one thing, and I think there are like so many other things that I will say that I see this whole story as a big chess game between two big powerful forces, and people who are participating in this war are being played as like soldiers in the chess game. So yeah, let's do it. And yeah, I really want, because for me right now it's getting more and more important. I want to break this silence. I want to do it because this is actually the real usage of free internet, you know, when we are not paid, and this is absolutely free, not an organization. Nobody is paying us thousands of dollars to make this fake news every day, post, you know, all these stories, like we don't know what was happening before and what was happening after, and they just share 30 seconds of video and they write their own scenario. I don't believe it really, and I'm not with this government of Iran, but yeah, like, what to do? At least I cannot play their game.
I even take it a step beyond what you said with the chess game, and definitely people are being played with as soldiers, but I look at it more like the WWE wrestling. In the US, they have this fake wrestling where all of the outcomes are determined, and they just kind of make this fight on stage, and you know, they have real blood. Sometimes they cut themselves even to look like they're injured, but they actually made the cut themselves, and they're hitting each other with chairs, and you know, like, it's real physical, but it's not a real wrestling match. It's theater that looks like a wrestling match. And so I feel that the truth is more not who wins in the wrestling match, but who is controlling the organization of the wrestling itself. I mean, when we look at the history of the international banking, one of the greatest ways that they were able to secure their power was by issuing debt to nation states. And the nation states would go into debt because of war. So it became very profitable that a bank would finance their country to attack another country, and then the same bankers themselves would take money from the country being attacked and give them a loan. Let's say, you need money from us now to buy your army. And so the same group of people were funding the armies of both sides of the conflict, and they were profiting from the war no matter who won or lost. And ultimately, the people who lose are the people themselves, and the people who win are those who are exploiting the people. And that to me is not even a chess game. It's theater, it's puppetry, it's wrestling. And I like what you said also about the family, because it's so true. In the US, the family has been destroyed. Not only are people disassociated from their cousins and their distant relatives, but also even the parents don't even stay together. Most families nowadays, they don't even have any cohesiveness, which is also it seems to me that it could be a strategy by the elite families, because there's these families who control lots of wealth, right? They're intergenerational families of these financial people who are doing the wars, and they have huge families with, like, they'll have a fancy shield with some, you know, animal on it and like a lion or something, and you know, they'll have some kind of claim that they're royal, you know, they call themselves royals. But when it comes to the rest of us, our families are dangerous, because when we have big families, we're harder to control. So it's really useful for the ruling class to break up all of the families, to make sure that no one has this beautiful, huge structure in their lives where they actually have support from one another, right? Like, if you have a family that can loan you money, why would you go to a bank? Why would you borrow money from a bank and pay them back twice what you borrowed if you can just ask your grandparents? So intergenerational wealth in the people is seen as a threat to the financial elite. It's almost like Iran could lead the revolution for the entire world to be free from these financial organizations that are predatory and sucking the blood of every laborer in the world. What if Iran had a cryptocurrency? What if Iran used Bitcoin for transactions instead of a currency that's invented from loaning imaginary money to people so that they're in debt? Because that's what I see is the biggest problem, is that even though people in Iran are a slave to the system, so are we everywhere, because we have to pay all of this imaginary money to the banks. And in a way, Iran is ahead of us because they aren't paying money to those banks.
Well, honestly, it's really hard to think of other people because this whole social media is brainwashing people for such a long time that, you know, this dark cloud has been put inside each of anybody whom I know, inside their brains, that they cannot even see anything, they cannot even hear anything, they cannot think of anything except that, oh my god, we are so unlucky to be born in Iran, we are so fucked up, the life is so fucked up, there is no hope, the future is dark. And this is the worst part, you know? Nobody gets to even think, nobody gets to question why, you know? You just wake up every morning, start scrolling, oh, something new, you know? It's like, you know, when we had this essay writing in school lesson, you know, they were giving us, for example, a subject, write an essay about this, and it's like every day this opposition. This is, I'm 100% sure that this is opposition work. They just, you know, they have probably a calendar, like now close to this, I don't know, national event, we make this noise, we make a story about this. The whole story about this Mahsa Amini, it's like really, for me, it's very suspicious, because how, you know, there is like just a few pictures of this girl, very few information. Plus, not very long ago, I started to watch a few episodes of this series on Apple TV. It's called Tehran. Yeah, it's British, Israel, American series about Tehran. The name is Tehran. It's about a Mossad agent that goes to Iran, that they want to make a mission to do whatever. I haven't even finished this because it was like, after a few episodes, it was like too much Hollywood cliche that I was just bored. But still is interesting, and it was so inspiring that they are already making series about it. You know, when something goes to TV, when something goes this much viral, it means something, you know. And with what is happening right now, these schools getting attacked, honestly, I don't think that government does this, you know, like they have so much more important things to do to just start to attack schoolgirls, you know, like I think it's also opposition doing this, you know, and the government, the Islamic Republic, is too much inside this whole story. Like they don't say a lot of things, they don't say about a lot of attacks from Israel, from America, because they just want to keep this powerful face, you know, which they are kind of powerful. But in another time, I want to open up about this whole patriarchy system that goes way much deeper than this government. About, I'm not only talking about Islamic Republic, because the whole thing was happening before for many years. If you look in the history, it was not like, before this government, when there was Shah, these whole stories and documentaries and pictures that are now so much viral about how free and nice was looking Iran, how free was for women, This whole thing just goes as far as Tehran limit, Tehran borders, because it was the capital, but still in other cities it was the same religious conservative system. It was not like everywhere was so European and everybody was so free, all the women was so free. No, there was like intellectual class that were going to university because the Reza Shah, the first Shah, the guy who built the Pahlavi dynasty, he built a university and women were educating, but it was like really very small percentage of the population, Plus, I would say that until I was living in Iran, I also had the same ideas that is so fucked up. I just need to leave. I cannot. I had no hope to build this. I had no hope for change, and I was like, okay, the best thing I can do is to get out of here and try to change my life. And actually, this is really nice because since I started to travel, I learned more about the place I come from than the time I was living there. You know why? Because I studied in this brainwash era that Islamic Republic was already established, was already stable, and our books and everything, the history that they were feeding to us, it was their own selection, filtered by them, what they want us to learn. Honestly, I admit that until now, I have no idea what really happened in history, because so many books, so many data was burned, was, hidden, was banished, was abandoned. Like we don't know. I really don't know what happened. I had no idea about politics. I had no idea who's in power, I even don't know still by this time. I don't know the figures in politics or whatever. I'm just talking based on my experiences. And I say I learned more about Iran when I left Iran. And I haven't been to Europe, I haven't been to America. I lived in Belarus for 2 years, but this was also a life-changing experience because I started to understand what things we have, because when you're living there, especially right now with this powerful media that is brainwashing every second, you cannot focus on what you have. And Iran is such a rich country. It has so much potential. We have so much things to be grateful for, but this opposition is just ruining our life, ruining Iran, and they don't care about anything. And of course, it's this banking thing that you said, the power in Middle East, and I'm sure there's so much more that we don't even know about. I would call what is happening now civil war, but it's a different kind of civil war. It's not people fighting each other. It's people with, the civil war is inside each person's mind, because we are destroying ourselves, because we don't see anymore what we have. We just are focused on what we don't have. Even right now at this moment, my friends are still having their own parties, their own weekend gathering, galleries are working. The art scene that is happening in Tehran, I don't know, I cannot say it's I don't know what is happening in London or New York, but it's something. We have our own auction that really it costs so much. It's exclusive for very, very important people. We have all these resources from land, from nature. We have so much things that, the country is neighboring around us. I have traveled around Iran, and that was the time when I started to learn what we have, how we live. I'm coming from a middle class family, not even rich family, but comparing to what I saw, for example, in Armenia, in Georgia, in Turkey even, we're living like rich people. Really, the standard of living in Iran is amazing. When I was living in Belarus, I couldn't imagine, like, oh my god, like there is like 6 months of winter, and there is not, you cannot find tomato on normal supermarket. You need to go to a fancy supermarket and pay like 10 times more that it would cost, for example, in Iran, even more than 10 times, for just really bad quality tomatoes that don't have even taste. And that was when I understood, like, oh my god, like, we have food, we have shelter, we have houses. Like, I don't know, when my German friend was visiting Iran, when he came to my parents' house, he was like really having this kind of apartment for a German. It's like a dream. You work all your life, but you can still not afford to buy an apartment like this, you know? You just get, I don't know, one room and that's it. A lot of my friends that traveled to Iran, they were also surprised by this. They were like, really, like, we were not expecting something like this, you know? People are living really good. Or like, I don't know, even with the experience of living in squat in Sakarya, for example, I remember one friends were saying, like, I couldn't believe that you guys, you have these homes. For example, when she was traveling there, she was saying, like, I couldn't believe somebody who has this home and this kind of life there, why would they, I don't know, come and do this, like, this experience. And for me, until this day, I think I never talked to my parents about my experiences in travel, like I was squatting in somewhere, because they would be like having heart attack, you know. They were like, why we did wrong that you needed to go and live like this, like, you have all these things, why they're still like telling me, why you don't come back and live here. Because for us, it's like families, they always live together, they always stay close together. And actually, I'm considered a very cold-hearted person comparing to average Iranian people, because like, I could easily detach myself and go abroad, and I haven't been back there for 3 years already. And honestly, I miss my home sometimes. I miss being there. I cry so many times when I'm feeling down. But last time I was there, I made a deal with myself that I'm not coming back, because it's not the time. I will go when everything will be in a different shape. But you know, this was my rebellion against this patriarchy system. This was my rebellion against myself, that right now I would call myself a spoiled child, because you live with your parents and this is the culture until you get married. And this was my kind of growth. This was my stepping out of my comfort zone, to go out there in the world, understand and live, like, see how it's real life out of my parents' shell. And I really, like, first time that it hit me, it was when I was talking around the fire with some brother. It was after Rainbow, and he started to telling me, like, I really praise your government, because it's the only government standing against West. And you know, it was so weird to hear it from some European guy, that this point of view was so new to me. And I started to, like, after this I started to notice more. And because when you are in Iran, the West, America, Europe is like a paradise. Like, anywhere outside of the border, it's like, wow, everything is ready. Government is paying for you to everything. This whole brainwash also, that a lot of people are earning money from this, is that you just get yourself to Europe and everything is fine. Government pays for everything. They give you house, they give you monthly payment to live for it, buy it, and They take like thousands of dollars to get you a visa, to get you to Europe, to become a refugee.
I totally understand the need to get out of your own country and go somewhere else, because that's what I did. I was gone for 7 years before I came back, because even though I miss my family a lot, I saw all the brainwashing. And like you said, you know more about your country when you leave it than when you're in it. So I learned more about my country and all about all countries, and I saw the same exact programmatic destruction of people's freedom and the same kind of repetitive use of power and authority across every country that I went to. And that made me realize that this is a global event that's happening in everyone's mind, like you said.
And this again, another brainwash idea for people. And everybody think like there is absolute freedom. There is absolute freedom of speech. There is absolute freedom of any kind. But this is the illusion of freedom. They what they don't understand, what they don't see, they just watch. In Iran, Hollywood cinema is very popular, and everybody watch like all the news, when what movie is coming, how much it's sold, and whatever. Like Iran, I would say, is so much Americanized, so much you cannot believe.
And I've just sent you a article about this topic. It's called Fifth Generation Warfare. And what it says about it is that fifth generation warfare is a battle of perceptions and information. In 5GW, violence is so discreetly dispersed that the victim is not even aware that they are losing the war. The secrecy of this warfare makes it the most dangerous warfare generation of all time. This warfare hides in the background, and the most successful wars are wars that are never identified. 5GW is also a cultural and moral war which distorts the perception of the masses to give a manipulated view of the world and politics. By contrast, fourth generation warfare has mainly used asymmetric means, such as non-state actors. So the idea of fifth generation warfare is that, yes, the battlefield is not the place called the United States or the place called Iran, but the battlefield is the mind of every human being living on the planet. And that war is being fought with information. Before it was the radio and the newspaper and the television, and now it's with the internet. So when I first started using Facebook when I was in university 20 years ago, you could just post anything and everyone would see everything kind of randomly, but it wasn't being filtered and controlled. And then they started implementing these algorithms to sort the information. And now all of the sites are using algorithms. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're all using algorithms to control what people see. How do I have 4,000 plus Facebook friends, but when I make a post on really interesting things, only 2 or 3 people see these? If it was a fair algorithm that just posted everything as it happened and people see it, I think we would see more of what each other are saying. But now these algorithms are being controlled, and if someone says something that's not agreeable to the people who own these websites, then they're going to filter that information and they're going to make it so that you don't see it. I think that people have it better than they realize. I don't know what it's like in Iran, but I'm sure that you have good food production because it has a huge territory in a very ideal place. Belarus can't even grow tomatoes. Like, I'm sure all the Belarusian tomatoes, like you said, they're super expensive, and when you cut them open, they're probably white in the middle, right? Not good. But if Iran has food production, then they have wealth, because if people can eat, then they're okay. Maybe you can't buy an iPhone unless you work for 5 years. But if you can eat, then you're good. And if you can have a house. I was talking about this with my Balkan friends, because so many of my friends in the Balkans, their family owns their house, their family owns their apartment, they don't pay a mortgage, they don't pay rent. But when it comes to the United States, most people are paying rent or a mortgage, and not many people have their house where they don't pay every month to live in it. So if someone in the Balkans loses their job, they have to worry to eat, but it's like a person in the Balkans who loses their job, they get to keep their house. A person in the USA who loses their job, they lose their house and they lose their health care. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety that comes with living in these Western countries, because the moment you lose your job, you stop being an employee slave and you lose your house.
Oh my God, you mentioned a really nice point that this job, this working, this 9 to 5 conditioning for everyone, and if you don't do it, you are not considered as a human being. You cannot live. And of course in Iran we don't have it still, with all these inflations, with all this currency and all these sanctions, even after 40 years. So if, like, I'm sure if my friends, even my friends, I'm saying, not just like anybody from Iran, if my friends would hear this, they would be like, yeah, you just went outside and you're just easily talking about this, you don't understand the problems we are facing here. That's why I'm telling you, I don't know a person that has my point of view, and I would be attacked for sure for saying this stuff. But what I noticed is that outside of Iran, you should just work. And even for New Year, people have just 1-2 days off that they will just drink to death, get drunk, and then again after the 2 days finish, the same way with weekends. You just work all week, and weekends you just get drunk, and then you wake up after weekend is finished, you just go to your job. So your life is your job, and this boring, mundane job that you do to live, to just live, to eat and to pay the rent. But in Iran, nobody is working. My family is 5 people. My father only works. My mom is a housewife, because that's again the culture. Of course, my dad was kind of open-minded. He always wanted my mom to have a job, but my mom didn't want to work. She was like, I'm doing enough work with the kids and in the house. I don't need to go to work. I don't want to work. And my father, working one person, was paying for everything. He had governmental job after many years with getting a lot of credit from bank and job and everything and saving money. They could afford to buy a house. And it was again my mom's wisdom, because she was saving, she was buying gold, and then when they needed to buy the house, she was selling all the gold to help my dad. And so we don't have to worry that every year we need to move and pay the rent and blah blah blah. And thanks to this, now they are having kind of safe life, as you say. At least they know that they have a house, they have a shelter. But I'm telling you, even the people who are having a job and working, like, you've traveled to Turkey, you see like the same thing that is in Turkey, like double times easier is happening in Iran. The people are just sitting at their shops, at their jobs, just talking to each other, drinking chai and smoking cigarettes, And the same thing is happening in Iran. So life is easy, life is slow, you just enjoy your life. Soon we are having a new year, 21st of March, Nowruz. We almost have 1 month of holiday. Of course, officially governmental is 6 days, maybe 10 days, let's say. But I remember that schools are almost off for 1 month. Other jobs that are not governmental can be off again too, for like, I don't know, maybe 15 days, half a month. People all travel, people all go to different parts of the country. If they can afford, they have much more money, they can afford to go like abroad. Because like living here, and it's not cheap at all. They made it so hard for people to live. That's also another bug of this government, that people cannot leave the country so often to go and see and touch the reality out of this border. That's why they think like out of this border is like paradise, and inside is just misery. And all these bad things, you know.
This is an interesting thing that I was thinking about recently, because it's like in the US, women have got the right to work a job and go and be employed somewhere. And also even in Iran, a woman can get a job. But what's interesting is that nowadays in the US, one person can't pay for all of their family to live. One person can't go to work and pay for all the food for their partner and their children, pay for their house, pay for their car, and pay for their health care and the children's education. It's not possible. But maybe in Iran, you still can have that. So your mom was free not to work. Your mom had the choice to go to a job, and she chose to stay in the house. That was her choice, because she felt that her work to raise the children was more important than to go and earn some money for some company, working for some people that weren't her family. So she had freedom to stay home. Most people don't get to do that. They can't have a parent stay at home. And the children go to daycare, the children are at school getting brainwashed by the government, and it seems like that's a loss of freedom, not a gain. And I don't mean to say that women should stay home, but it should be possible that a family can be provided for by one person. And now it's not.
Yeah, this is one side of the story, what you said about my mom, that she had a choice. But the other side of the story is that women in Iran cannot have a job if the husband is not satisfied with it. So if the husband don't allow you to have a job, you cannot have a job by law. And so I have a friend whom she got divorced because of this, because she wanted to work, but her husband was saying, I'm providing you with everything and I don't want you to go to work, because he was feeling threatened that if she is out there in the society, she's meeting a lot of new people.
And then she divorced him anyway. So he was afraid of her getting control, because maybe she would leave him, and then she left him because he wouldn't let her work. I mean, it's so stupid, this controlling someone's ability to earn money, not just for husbands to do it to their wives, which of course is ridiculous, but for governments to do it to someone else. Like, why can't I do something for someone and receive money if we both agree? Why does some government have to tell me I can or cannot? If I want to do that, it should be my right, and anyone's right. And what about these sanctions, huh? Thinking about these economic sanctions on Iran, you wonder if the thing that makes the situation hard in Iran is more from the government or from the sanctions. I guess it's both, because the sanctions makes the people upset and angry, and then the government is also taking away their rights. So you have these sanctions which give people no opportunity. It makes them feel like their country is poor, because like you said, Iran is really a rich country. You have lots of oil there, there's lots of minerals, lots of agriculture, lots of rich heritage, musical instruments, beautiful handmade rugs and carpets, all kinds of things coming from Iran. Very beautiful handmade, beautiful things, vases. I've seen so much stuff. But what, they don't have this fake money that the banks invented that doesn't even really exist, so it's poor. It's such a bullshit way of evaluating things. But yeah, what is this control, these sanctions? I mean, it's making it worse, isn't it? All this time we're protesting the Iranian government, and we're letting the sanctions exist, and the people in Iran are the ones getting hurt by that. So if we're going to protest the Iranian government, and at the same time support the idea of sanctions, we are being logically inconsistent, because if we want to support the Iranian people and we're making it so that they can't even leave their country without a visa, and that they can't even buy and receive and spend money and use Western products because of these stupid economic sanctions, this stuff isn't hurting the Iranian regime. They were going to the World Cup. The Iranian leadership is strong. They have everything they want. They have all the newest toys. They have all the best phones, everything. But the people are the ones who are suffering from the sanctions, not the government. So what are we doing in the West? We're hurting Iranian people with these stupid sanctions.
All right, so a lot of people will have questions on if there is any alcohol in Iran, and to be honest with you, there is. And Iranians do have a very high rate of drinking compared to other nations, but however, if you Google this and Google like, oh, is there alcohol in Iran? It's gonna be, it's completely illegal, punishable by death, and it's not even existent. But that is not true at all. In fact, when you want to drink in any other developed country, which alcohol is legal, you have to present an ID. In America, you have to be over 21. In some European countries, you have to be over 18. So they're not just gonna sell you alcohol without identifying your age. And here it's much more complicated, you know, like to even buy non-alcoholic beers in America, they're still gonna wanna ID you to not encourage younger generations to start drinking. It's really mind-boggling to me that even for Heineken Zero, they have to ID you in America. But to be honest with you, we have like malt beverages in Iran, and it's like very well known as Distillation. It tastes exactly like a beer. It looks exactly like a beer. It's made out of what a beer is made out of, but there's no alcohol in it. It's like kind of like coffee, but decaf. Like it is coffee. It's gonna taste like coffee, but no caffeine in it. However, what's even more interesting is in America, you can go buy those non-alcoholic malt beverages, the Iranian ones or the Arabic ones, in the Iranian or Arab stores, and you can go and get those without any ID. But if you want to go to a beer store and wine store and get Heineken Zero, they're definitely going to ID you, although there's no alcohol in it. So that's what kind of makes it more funny and more interesting, because I look at them and I'm like, are you going to ID me for black coffee? I think America has this big thing with IDing people for selling alcohol, because it does have a lot of incidents regarding alcohol and, you know, accidents and, you know, violence, domestic violence. But like in any other country which alcohol is legal, like European countries, they're not as strict as IDing people as the way they are in America. In America, they have this law: as a bartender, as a server, whoever looks under the age of 35, they are to get ID'd. And I'm like, you know, like it doesn't matter if they look over 21. If they look under 35, they ID you. Now, what's funny is that in Iran, where do you get alcohol? In Iran, the same dealer which sells you weed, molly, ecstasy, cocaine, I don't know, opium, whatever dealer that sells you drugs is going to be the same dealer who's going to sell you alcohol, unless if they don't have what you're looking for. Like, they can probably, most likely any dealer in Iran is going to have alcohol, but like the other stuff that I just said, like molly, ecstasy, all that stuff, they may not have that. They may or may not have that, but usually a dealer is somebody who sells all of these stuff. So they're going to have all that. Like here in America, we have specific dealers for a certain drug. We have like a cocaine guy, we got like a molly guy, we got a weed guy. Well, alcohol is legal, so you go buy it from the store. But it's really rare that one guy is gonna have every single drug. You know, like it's just funny because like in Iran, the same guy is gonna have all these drugs. Now, I can tell you getting alcohol in Iran, if you know a guy, is so easy. It's so much easier than getting alcohol in America, because imagine me as a 16 or 17-year-old, I could have just called my guy and they would even deliver it to my house and pay them and not even get carded or ID'd or them asking me like, how old are you? Who's gonna drink this with you? What's gonna happen? Like it would just like, okay, here's your alcohol, go, take it. Now, if you notice, every country has a certain kind of liquor or liqueur, which is kind of like their country's alcohol. For example, Russia has vodka. Mexico has tequila. In Japan, they got suki. Or like etc. Like any country, or like Campari's for Italy. Now, the famous liquor, which is now kind of branded in Canada, like an Iranian person came to Canada and branded that liquor in Canada, like there's like an actual brand of that liquor, is a liquor called Araq Sagi. Araq Sagi, it technically means dog alcohol. Now, the reason why they call it dog alcohol was because before the revolution, when alcohol was legal, they used to make a real strong kind of liquor, which, why was it called dog alcohol? It was because it had a picture of a dog on it, and it was known that it can make a dog fucking drunk. Now, what is Araq Sagi, or let's say it's called Sagi, what is that even made out of? That is made out of distilled raisins. They would use raisins, especially the dark and the heavy skin kind of raisins, to distill that kind of liquor. It's like a clear kind of liquor, very bitter. It looks exactly like vodka. It tastes a little stronger than vodka, but that's the main kind of alcohol in Iran. Now, to get that most available and famous kind of Iranian liquor, Sagi, from your dealer was so easy that me, as a 16-year-old, I would just call my dealer and get a 1 liter of that kind of alcohol. And back compared to when I used to live in Iran, 1 toman was like $1. So I would buy a liter of alcohol for around $30 or $40. And that could have like served easily 3 to 4 people. Now, one of the biggest problems here in Iran in buying alcohol is that you buy it from a person that you really trust. The reason is that because when they're cleaning raisins, and if they accidentally leave a stem of a raisin in the batch, that alcohol, which is scientifically known as an ethanol, is going to turn into methanol. And methanol can be a dangerous kind of alcohol to drink. It can cause blindness and possibly even death. It has happened to people in Iran. So that's why people who want to drink, they usually make their own kind of alcohol. They don't really go buy it off of someone they don't know. It was like back during the times in America, which they would say a bad moonshine can cause a person to go blind or even pop their eyeballs. It's kind of similar to that, to be honest with you. It would be like a dangerous, uncontrolled kind of, distillery making Sagi, and all of a sudden, the whole batch of alcohol can go bad, and it would be sold to people, and then people would even die or even lose their vision. That was one big thing in Iran. Now, Sagi was the main kind of alcohol in Iran, which was the most famous. A lot of you may have questions like, can I find American brands of alcohol in Iran? Yes, you certainly can do. You can find a lot of different brands, not only American, but let's say Turkish or Russian or, any kind of alcohol in Iran. But the problem is because they get smuggled in the border, you really can't trust if this is if a fake kind of liquor, like the same Sagi, poured in that kind of bottle, or if it's actually that original kind of drink, Like let's say you want to buy a bottle of Smirnoff in Iran. They're going to sell that to you way much more expensive than Sagi. But you really can't trust if this is actually that kind of vodka in that bottle, or if it's just some kind of other liquor poured into the bottle There are, however, some people who do actually bring original kind of brands into Iran, but trust me, it's going to be way expensive. And still, you have to buy it off of somebody you know, because you still can't trust if that kind of liquor with that bottle is being sold to you as the original kind of liquor or whatever that bottle is. A lot of truck drivers do bring it through, like contraband, that kind of stuff, like licked goods. But even here in America, when you're buying stuff off the black market, you can't really qualify it's going to be good or not. Now, drinking, consuming, and possessing alcohol by Muslim citizens in Iran is illegal under the Islamic Republic. However, the Islamic Republic kind of made it more open and free for non-Muslim citizens to consume and to produce alcohol, like the Armenians living in Iran. Now, in Iran, we have a big majority of Armenians, which are Armenian Iranian, living in Iran, and since they're a majority, they're Christian, the Islamic Republic does not mind if they produce and drink alcohol, especially their own kinds of wines. Now, as we all know, alcohol isn't something that comes from the sky. Like, it's not something magical. Like, literally any person can make alcohol if they know how to make it. Especially stuff like wine and beer is like a much easier process to be made compared to distilling liquor. Distilling liquor, all you just need is the right kind of fruit, water, a pot, which heats up and boils the alcohol, and then a little tube, which would cool down that alcohol, and then it starts dripping and producing liquor. So it's really not that complicated to make your own alcohol. But yeah, people who really do consume a lot of alcohol in Iran make their own kind of alcohol, then go buy it off of some dealer. Now, I have cousins who make their own wine and buy like a lot of grapes. And when they do, they have at the end like about 900 liters of wine. So it's funny that alcohol is illegal in Iran, but people who do make it, especially make it for themselves to consume, they make a fuck ton bunch. 900 liters, like physically, that's like 900 bottles of wine. And I'm thinking like that's like a whole wine store of wine. Now you see, that's what gets interesting. It's like a country which is illegal. However, people drink like. Now, me personally, living as a minor in Iran and liking to drink, I did really drink almost every day. It was so easy, so accessible. It was really fun as a minor living in Iran, because here in America, minors, people under 21, are always struggling to not get carded or to ask an older cousin or relative to buy it for them. And, the law is much more strict. Like, what happens if they accidentally get into a car accident? What happens if, somebody catches them being drunk and they're under the age? Like there's like a lot of different things of why adults here are really cautious to buy younger people alcohol. And it really makes sense, to be honest with you. In America, not only the person selling alcohol, but even if, like, let's say your mom or your dad would go buy you alcohol and you would do something which would get involved with the cops, like let's say you would drive later, or you would be on your bike, or for some reason they would be suspicious that you've been drinking and you're under the age, and just a percent of alcohol in your BAC system would show, then they would not only question you, but they would question the person who you got it from. In Iran, there's no control over that kind of things, because technically it's illegal for every single person to drink, whether under the age or whether over the age. But yeah, on top of me being really happy of all girls school, I was also very happy that I can buy alcohol so easily. But, like as a 16 or 18-year-old, because when I came back to America, I was like 18 years old. And an 18-year-old, you can't even barely buy cigarettes to buy alcohol. You have to wait until you're 21. That's why I was like, oh man, this place sucks already.
Wow, it's like a bad kid's paradise. Oh my god. Yeah, that's wild. 900 liters. And that's like annually. Oh my goodness. I just wonder how the people feel secure that they could produce so much alcohol and store it. Like aren't they afraid of getting raided by the cops? Or are the cops more aggressive here in the US about breaking into your house and looking at your stuff? It's interesting, yeah. And the distillation thing I can understand. They do a lot of that in the Balkans too. I really like homemade alcohol. Distillation is definitely a science that should be known by all people. It's alchemy. The alembic is such a notable tool of the alchemist to transmute the spirits from the fruits. And yeah, I remember getting really obsessed with learning how to make my own whiskey one time after I had read about the Whiskey Rebellion, which was after the Revolutionary War in the United States. And Alexander Hamilton, that bastard Federalist, cursed be his name, Alexander Hamilton levied a tax on alcohol that was disproportionately going to the small producers, because the large producers could pay a flat rate. They could pay a flat fee, which is still very high, but since they were a large business, they could just pay a flat fee, and then they wouldn't have to pay a percentage. And then all the small producers had to pay a percentage every time. And George Washington was George Washington was the largest distiller owner in the country. He was also the richest man in the country. When he was the president, he was also had the largest distillery. So he wasn't affected as much because he could pay a flat fee and then sell at a lower price. But the other producers could not. And they had a big rebellion about it. They didn't want to pay these taxes, and they thought it was unfair. And the U.S. military was sent in to quell the rebellion. It was the first time the U.S. military was used on its own citizens, was to fight this rebellion of people who didn't want to pay taxes on their whiskey. And so learning about that, and also about Prohibition and how alcohol was being used to drive Model T Fords, and then Rockefeller, who was wanting to get everyone to buy petroleum gasoline, gave a lot of money to the Temperance League to push for complete abolition, the prohibition of alcohol. Yeah, so my rebellious side, I wanted to learn about how to make alcohol. I thought that was something important to learn how to do, because it's like, if you don't have money, alcohol's worth something. I mean, in Iran, where you said one toman was $1, and now $1 is like, what, like 1 million toman or something? I don't know off the top of my head, but that's an insane amount of inflation. So you could get your paycheck in Iran, however millions of toman you have, buy the grapes and turn it into wine, and you can keep that wine for years, and that's going to hold its intrinsic value much more than those toman are. I mean, that's what I would do if I lived in Iran. I would turn all of my cash into property and things that were tangible assets because of that inflation problem.
Yeah, a lot of Iranian Americans think that if they go take dollar into Iranian money's worth, they think that they're gonna save a lot more money. But to be honest with you, today you can sell your dollar for like 50 tomans. Tomorrow it's gonna be 60, 70. So you're not actually making money, but you're losing money, because now if you want to go buy dollar, it's gonna be even more expensive than what you sold it for, if that makes sense. And honestly, I wouldn't really invest money in a country like Iran because it's not a stable country. Like any other country, like Turkey, Japan, any other Hispanic countries, Latino countries, you're gonna go buy property. You know, tomorrow Chavez is not gonna turn into some other person. But that's what happened during the revolution in Iran. A lot of the people who worked for the government and they had property and land back there, all of a sudden since the revolution, they lost everything they had. They had to like travel out of the country and leave what they had. So to be honest with you, I have seen people invest money in property in Iran, and it's just really risky because sometimes that property doesn't even have the right papers or the right certification, and you go and buy it off of somebody, and it's not even your land. It turns out to be for somebody else. And yeah, they get away with it. They do that a lot, so, you know. And also, like, let's say anybody living here in America, like foreigners, they especially do that. Like, they work here all their life, save their money, go buy property and land back home. It makes sense in their country, but when it comes to Iran, especially people like me, which hate that government, hate that revolution. If you looked at my pictures, I have pictures with Noor Pahlavi and you know, the Shah of Iran's niece and nephew. I personally think that I am not allowed back in Iran. Excuse me. And even going back there is risky. So that's really not an option for a person like me because I don't even want to go back to Iran and live there. So why would I go invest all my money into Iranian money and go buy property there? Like, are you gonna even go live there? Like, fuck no. Now let's say if you were living in Iran and you wanted to like what you said, like let's say you were living in Iran and you do want to live there and stay there, then that would be a good idea. Like you said, like turn all your grapes into wine, and that's what a lot of people do. People who know how to do stuff like that, they do tend to do stuff like that. But I'm like, here it's really the cost of grapes and raisins is much more than going down to your local liquor store and buying whatever amount of alcohol you want to get, you know, unless if you want to make your very own handmade, or if you have like, let's say, an orchard and you have a lot of grapes and that, then yeah, but you know, it's, with these prices in America, it's really not worth doing stuff like that.
Totally. And my the friends that I know from Iran, like, they were telling me stories about how they would just to get their tomans and immediately turn it into dollars or gold, and that was the main thing. There's just like many people exchanging for dollars and gold, and they'll just turn the majority of their money into that, and then only using the tomans for their expenses that they have in the immediate moment. I sure would love to go to Iran, to go as a guest of someone. Like, I would need to have all these things, right? Like, I'd need to have a tour guide, and I would need to have an itinerary and all that as a U.S. passport holder. But I would really love to go there. But I want it to be free. I would love to see a change happen where it had more stability and that it was a different kind of government. I don't really support a Shah or a king, any royal family. I think some kind of democracy or some republic would be good. But I also know that the situation is really, like, in a way, Iran is doing some interesting things financially because they're not participating in the same international banking system that's bankrupted and indebted so many other countries. And I think that there is some wisdom in that, with the government resisting to become part of that coercive framework. So yeah, I mean, while I want to see a revolution happen in Iran, I'm really also aware, and also some of my other Iranian friends have told me about this, that they're kind of suspicious about the way things are unfolding. And I mean, of course, you could have things like the CIA and Mossad and all of these other spy agencies who have a lot of interest in destabilizing the country and putting in a government that would be more sympathetic to their plans. And that's also a bit disconcerting to me. I mean, I would love to see a sovereign, independent nation state that was free and open society, but also was not beholden to new masters, so to speak.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking that somehow last time I got warmed up opening about Iran and talking about it. I was waiting for Naya to come to me, and then she arrived, and I just got busy. When people are around, it's really hard for me to focus. I need to find some time alone and continue. I need to listen to my last voice message and start it from there. Because it was like a hot topic.
Yes, I agree. I was interested in your take on it, because I think you're pointing out some really unnoted things about politics globally, and you're making sure not to have a polarized view about where you're from, and I think that's very important. That just as Iran has many things that are less free than somewhere like, say, USA, you also have things that are more free. Like, you have university and healthcare for free. You can buy birth control in Iran in the supermarket. In the US, you need to have a doctor give you a prescription. That's not as free. I wanted to see if you had any more thoughts about things, because the last thing I brought up that I thought was pretty important to discuss, and I didn't hear back from you on, was about sanctions and their effect on people in Iran, and which is worse, the government or sanctions, or is it a combination of both? Also, I was curious if you had any positive stories of your living in Iran, if you want to share anything more.
Hey. It's really good that you mentioned that. I forgot, I'm sorry. Life has been so much wavy last time, as it is, as always. And I was just floating on these waves, and I forgot. But at the same time, when you send me a message and you explained, I think it's also good. It would look more like a conversation. You said that you asked me a question about sanctions and the government and stuff, and at the end you asked about something positive. It was a little bit interesting, it made me realize and remember that lately people don't do this so much. They don't. Let's say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, with the amount of these numbers and the money, for example, that I could exchange to dollar and travel and spend money, or do anything, I had more power, and now I have less power, in an international scale. How they are affecting normal average people lives, because politicians and diplomats, they have all the advantages in this part. For them, not so much. I don't know. I am not one of them. I cannot imagine. I don't have the right to talk about their side. Probably they should have their own problems as well. They don't think about anything positive about Iran. It's the collective plan. It's the collective idea, or it's the collective collective spirit of this territory of the earth, this piece of land. Anyway, let's start with something positive. I don't feel like now speaking about sanctions and the government. Something. Wait, I just said it and I forgot about something positive. You know. Okay, I would say about sanction and government, you know, how it affected me personally. I don't know, imagine like you need to travel, for example, my personal experience. And but you get the idea. I mean, like how it affected my personal life, let's say, since I started to travel abroad from Iran, because in Iran, yeah, okay. This is something positive. You see, in Iran, after my experience of life in Belarus, which is like a European post-Soviet country, I can say that average people live, like standard of living is much more higher than other places. I mean, you've been to Turkey. Let's give an example about Turkey. The average food that everybody is used to, even say poor people, relatively financial wise, I'm saying this category. I mean, the normal food that they have and they grow in their garden, it's much better and organic, and comparing to what you find in let's say in Belarus, what I was experiencing, like you don't have this fruit shop, you know, like this uncle that has fresh fruits, and something like this doesn't exist. All is like chain stores, and then you buy one cucumber and come home and use it half for now, and you, I don't know, use 1/3 of it for now and 1/3 tomorrow, and 1/3 tomorrow evening, you know, and make a salad 3 times with one cucumber. And you should count every small money, you know, because then like they have really long winters and less products. Everything is imported, everything is expensive, you know, unless it's grown there like everywhere else. At the same time, even the sanctions, I think, I don't know, it made such a weird place out of Iran. Because of these sanctions, like they started to do everything by themselves. Like, I don't know, we have our own Coca-Cola even, you know, and anything that you can imagine, there is an Iranian version of it, and they're not shy to copy and just change the name and look exactly, even the boxing, it looks exactly the same, the colors look exactly the same. Let's say sneakers, you know, like we have a chocolate bar that is called Sirvan, and it looks exactly like sneakers, the same font even. But you know what my point is that yeah, we are like the sanctions made really unique, weird, chaotic version of government and system in Iran that is kind of funny in a way. And right now it's the highest rate of inflation, and currencies, like unbelievable, like how fast it changes, and it's just like I haven't been to Iran for 3 years, but I cannot even imagine already, like, you know, it's like too much of changes, too much of chaos, too much of freedom, I would say, in a sense that everybody really can do whatever they want, you know. There's not like one central governor governing or monitorizing, like I don't know, you go to supermarket. I was going to supermarket and buying a product that the price is written on it, and then the shopkeeper just say a different name, like it's written there, and it's like, no, it's like this, you want, you buy. Or sometimes they even cross it by a marker and write the new price, and this price, for example, can be different if you buy from a shop that is in a rich area, or in the normal average area, or in the center, or in the south, which is like poor area. I'm talking about Tehran, for example.
Dandelion, hello again. I just want to add something that at the end of the second voice, I'm talking about the biggest fear of mine about Iran and what makes me afraid the most. In the voice, I said invading the country, yani the fear of country being invaded. But I meant separation, yani I used a bad word. And it's at the end of the voice. If I wanted to change it, I needed to record all over again. So I didn't, and now you know what I meant. I meant separation. For the country to get separated, that's my biggest fear about Iran. And also, I thought there is some important information about Iran, yani about problems that Western world made for Iran during last 100, 200 years, yani not in very old history, in contemporary time. There is some things I think it's good to know, and these things I know, yani as I see in the world, people are not talking about it. Almost nobody knows about these things, and maybe it's not bad to just talk about it, to just talk about them a bit by yourself. For me, it was too much complicated in English to talk about. So I will send you some links in Wikipedia. You can look up. Maybe you also don't know, maybe you also never heard about it, but it's not bad to know.
Wow, Dina, I just listened to your messages. Yeah, that's great. I really it's funny about the Tarof. Yeah, I learned about that. It's that's really that's really great explanation, I think. Yeah, I've heard about it a lot from different people, but I like your explanation. It has a little bit of the truth about it. Yeah, well, it's very early in the morning here, but I had some time to listen, and I'm on a trip right now. I'm in another place than where I actually live, so it's like kind of interesting to wake up in a new place and listen to your message. But it was really great to hear what you had to say, because I like to hear some positive things about the history of Iran and all the diversity and the beauty that exists there. And it's really important for me that we publish this document that gives people hope, and also people who have never really looked into what's going on in Iran, and that people understand what a beautiful place it is, and it's full of so many different people, and how the main problem right now is that there's a small group who's trying to squash the diversity and erase history, but they can't, like you said, like the Tarof. Everyone says, yeah, we'll do what you say. But we all know that that's not what they actually do, which is beautiful. I think that in this instance, maybe Tarof is what has saved the Persian spirit. But yeah, thanks for the links. I'm going to take a look at them, because it would definitely be good to give some of this history. Thank you so much for your contribution. I really appreciate your voice to be participating here.
Dandelion, salam. How are you? Azizam, first of all, I wish you enjoy a lot in your trip. And then I'm glad that these voice messages are somehow close to what you expected and what you can use in your podcast. And yes, this country, it's hard to live inside. It's annoying to be inside somehow with Islamic Republic. lots of most of the time there is lots of news and lots of shitty things that can make you suffer, but in the same time you can enjoy. And if you learn if you learn this Persian spirit to go inside yourself in hard times, then you can enjoy somehow. There is enough things to concentrate on, like literature, Sufism, poems, music, and these kind of things. You can make yourself busy with and forget what's happening outside. And actually this is the reason of why in this country there is lots of Sufis, because there has been all the time lots of problems, all the time lots of suffers and killings and blood and problems. But yes, there is still ways of escaping inside yourself. Tarof also, it's something in this way. And in Iran there is also all the time something inside and something outside, and Tarof is also a part of this inside and outside. Yes, I guess I explained enough about what is this stuff. And yes, it's done. And happy to hear your voice, Dandijan, and hope to see you somewhere.
Oh my god, how time flies. It's already summer solstice. And it's interesting because right now, today, I was kind of processing this characteristic that I have, that I just leave everything for later and later, and sometimes this later never comes. I am not sure, like, I feel like the conversation was unfinished, but yeah, maybe it's finished, maybe not. But anyway, maybe I can add some stuff. Like, I'm not even sure anymore about my ideas about Iran. A lot of things has changed, and a lot of things that I was thinking that they are good, they just as everything that is relative, they just changed into something not good anymore. I don't want to say bad, but a lot of things that I was thinking they are bad, right now I think they are not bad anymore. So it's like this question that you had about positive and negative experiences is like so much relative right now in my mind. I give you example, even the foods that I liked so much all my life, I was used to them, like sour stuff. I was trying after 2-3 years, and my stomach cannot handle them anymore. And a lot of things that I was thinking, like, they're like too much, like too much closeness, too much kindness, too much friendship. They kind of, so yeah, like everything is so much relative, and honestly I don't even know how I would feel right now by being there. My last experience was a lot of intense moments that I promised myself that I won't forget them, because like I had this pattern when I was away. I was missing and I was forgetting all the let's say, bad moments, and I just remember the best parts. And when I was going back again, being in the same atmosphere, a lot of things were triggering the habits or the traits that I didn't want to have anymore. So yeah, but still I love it. I mean, how else would it be? There is a part of me that will always be Iranian as any other Iranian. It's just something really hard to explain. Yeah, I miss the nature, let's say. I miss some food, but I don't know. I think after living in more healthier places, I cannot live in Tehran anymore, even though I was born and raised there. I cannot handle the chaos that lives there, and the dirty air. I cannot breathe it anymore, and the noise. I still love big cities, but I mean, there's something about Tehran that is too much and beautiful at the same time.